This is Gamers on Tap, the podcast for the thinking gamer, where happy hour meets gaming culture. And on the show today, I want to talk about how things can be so bad, but so good at the same time. I'm your host, Gunnar, and you're listening to the February 24th, 2014 edition of the Gamers on Tap podcast. Hello, gamers and friends. Thanks again for listening. Okay, so what I'm thinking about is, how can things be bad and good at the same time? Hey, but first off, it's Monday. How's everybody's weekend? Everybody have a good time? Everybody enjoy the weather? I don't know, the weather seemed to be a little bit warmer than it has been. That's always a good thing. Winter is just so darn depressing. We stay inside. We don't want to go outside. We have less exercise. We eat more. We put on weight. And as soon as the weather starts warming up, it's time to start running. My daughter actually, this weekend, she said, hey, I want to go for a run because she wants to start doing cross-country running. And I figure that's good because, I'm an on-again, off-again runner. When I start running, I go full force and I like to get in between 30 and 40 miles a week. But then I take breaks. I take breaks for like 6 months at a time. So it means I have a long way to ramp back up again to start running. Anyway, she just springs it on me. She said, hey, I want to go run today. And I thought for a minute, I'm like, yes, that's actually a good idea. I want to go run with you also, but I can't because I'm out of shape. I will probably have a heart attack and die. The older I get, the harder it is to run. I remember, when you're younger, and I was in the Marines, a lot of these anecdotes are going to go back to the Marine Corps if you haven't figured it out. It was nothing to be out, till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, stumble back to the barracks, drink a gallon of water. Yes, a gallon of water. Go to sleep for a couple hours, wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, like literally just a couple of hours, wake up and then go for a 4 or 5 mile run. We all smelled like booze, but it was just one of those things where you're young, your body is resilient. You bounce back very quickly. When you get older, not so much. I mean, it was crazy. This is a crazy thought to picture, or a crazy image to get in your head. But think about this. After runs in the Marine Corps, the entire company would come back, and you would have 20 guys on the smoke deck. It was basically like just this little pavilion area designated for smoking. You'd have like 20 guys lighting up their cigarettes immediately done after running. Some guys would smoke beforehand. I used to monitor a physical fitness test for my last unit. And, I would stand out there like, all right, we're about to get ready. We're going to get started. I would go over all the administrative stuff. And guys would still be puffing on a cigarette, trying to get that last drag before they ran 3 miles, a timed 3 mile run. And it was important. It was important for promotion. But yeah, you got to get that last bit of nicotine in. You can't do that now. I mean, when you get older, I'm talking about myself. You can't do that. I know that the public opinion about smoking has definitely changed, but yeah, you just can't do it when you get older. I mean, your body starts failing. It's just not. It's just not gonna work. You can't run and smoke at the same time. Be out all night long drinking and then go run. I mean, if I have a couple of Oreo cookies, I can't do exercise. Like I'm like, oh no, I'm too full. Oh, yeah, it's crazy. So the weather's warming up. Gonna have to start running again. I'm actually looking forward to it. My daughter's gonna be the one that's going to motivate me. I remember when my oldest daughter wanted to get into running. That did not take at all. She has a lot of gifts. She's very talented. Physical fitness is not one of them. I just remember running and she's stopping every, quarter of a mile, bent over, trying to breathe in, sucking air, and I'm feeling fine. I'm like, look, I was like, I drink too much. I smoke too much, I'm 20 plus years older than you, and I'm not having a hard time with this. So pick up the pace. Yeah, she didn't take it. My youngest daughter, the last run we went on, yeah, I was the one dragging ass, sucking wind. So I think age is finally caught up. So I'm going to have to get back in shape. So thank God the weather's warming up. We're going to get back in shape. Yes, it's going to be fun. Good times. So the topic for today, how can things be so good and so bad at the same time? Oh, I got this idea because I'm reading a lot of news articles about the Xbox One and how it's not selling that well. Well, it just seems strange because we were given all this good information about Xbox and the Xbox One and this great gaming system, and it sold a lot of consoles on launch. We've got a lot of titles to look forward to, but right now PlayStation seems to be outselling Xbox 2-1, and it has investors looking at Microsoft going, "Hey, you know what's going on here? This doesn't look very good." Well, how can it be? How can both of these? How could that happen? You know, I mean, who cares? PlayStation versus Xbox, but how could anybody scratch their head and say, "Hey, this thing's going to fail"? I mean, aren't we supposed to be in some sort of video game renaissance right now? And that's when I started thinking, how can things be so good and so bad at the same time? You know, just look at the stock market and the economy. How come the stock market can have record gains seemingly every single day, yet unemployment rates are bad? Unemployment, you know, jobs. I mean, here's a fact for you, and fact check me on this. I want you to do your own research sometimes, but let me just throw this out here. The median income right now is essentially the exact same as it was in the 90s. That doesn't make sense to anybody because GDP is still moving up. How can income levels not be rising at the same pace? You know, for the past 100 years, all throughout the Industrial Revolution or the Industrial Era, when GDP improves, so does the incomes. But now it's not. And so, you know, does that have anything to do with Xbox and PlayStation and video games? Not directly, but it means that we're seeing record profits in some areas, but then companies say that they're having trouble. It doesn't make sense. How can Black Ops 2 be selling and making, you know, a record amount of money when it launches, you know, last year, or Halo 4 sets records, or Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 5 series makes a lot of money, and yet then you hear developers talking about how their profit margins aren't what they want them to be. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that Facebook, that Mark Zuckerberg can buy WhatsApp for $19 billion, but the economy is in bad shape. How in the world is all of this happening at the same time? I don't know. Honestly, I don't have a clue. You got a clue, you could tell me. But it just seems that we have access to so much. And there's so many great opportunities in this world today, but at the same time, some things are so bad, it's just hard to fathom. You know, it's like how can going to a party and having a really good time, you know, that party you've been looking forward to all week, I don't know, maybe you have a new girlfriend, maybe you want to show her off, maybe you got a new job and you want somebody to ask you about it so you can brag about, you know, how great your life is right now. You just want somebody to ask, like, please just ask me how things are. I'll be happy to tell you. You know, you go to that party, and first off, you bring your girlfriend, your new girlfriend that you're proud of, that you want to show off, and then some guy like actually hits on her or gives her a look, and next thing you know, you're you're all overprotective, angry, jealous boyfriend. Like how does that happen? You want her to look good. You don't want her to go out in sweat clothes and, you know, her hair not washed, no makeup. You want her to look good, but then you don't want people to look at her. Like, hopefully you're not one of those guys. I used to be one of those guys. You know, the secret there, guys, is it just means you're really insecure. The guy who's jealous is the guy who's insecure. Because you feel like, oh my God, if he hits on her, she's going to go out with him. Like, really, guy? You're not that confident in yourself that if some guy, random dude at a bar cracks a joke, your girl's going to run off? Really? You're that shallow? Or maybe it says more about your own character that you would do that. If a girl just winks at you, you're like, oh, I'll step out on my girlfriend. Sure, give me your number. We'll hang out later. Either way, I used to be that way and not good. But anyway, I digress. So, you're at the party. Things are going well. You're having a great time. And then what happens is you're like, oh my goodness, I'm having such a great time. I don't want to leave. And you pass that threshold where the party is no longer going to be fun anymore. The first half hour is like, hey, you're meeting, you're greeting, eating a few snacks, checking out what liquor's available, making yourself a drink, making somebody else a drink. You meet the host, you chit chat, you do the politeness. Then you sit down, you relax, you're having a conversation, or you get involved in some activity. I don't know, maybe you're playing beer pong or flip cup, or maybe you're like me and you're sitting out back by the bonfire and you got a cigar and a scotch, and you're just talking about everything. But at a certain point, it's not going to be fun anymore. That party is going to hit the back end when it's time to let's start to leave now. And again, like me, I'm full of life's mistakes. I need to write a book about every single mistake you can make in life, okay? Because staying too long at a party is one of them, right? We know that. You know that after the fact because nothing good happens. One, you're going to be way too drunk by then. Like the first hour is great because you're still just getting your buzz. You have your wits about you. Everything's a little bit funnier. Everything's a little bit more interesting. But what happens when, I'll have another drink. And another drink. And I'm not leaving at, between 11 and midnight, it's time to leave. That's the latest you should probably stay. Don't go into the next day. Don't go into the wee hours. Don't go 1 a.m. That's just not good. Nothing's going to happen. That's when you start saying things you don't really mean. You're slurring your words. You knock something off the bookshelf and it breaks and, it's just bad. It's just not good. You don't want to be that guy. But that's it. The party was great. So how was something that was so good end up so bad? It's like there's Eastern philosophies that talk about, everything. There's a balance in life. That when things are really good, it can only get so good, and then things have to start getting bad to balance the universe. Well, that's an interesting idea because it seems to work out that way sometimes, doesn't it? When things they seem to be going absolutely great, it's like you're just waiting for that other shoe to drop. And then you get some horrible bad news and you're like, why? Why can't things just always be good? They can't. I don't think they can. That's not normal. Things just can't always be good all the time. It's like that little kid's wish, I wish I lived at Disneyland. No, you don't, because then Disneyland would turn into a horrible place for you. And then when things are so bad, it works in reverse, because when things get to a point when it's just the worst they could possibly be, things start to get good again. You find that silver lining. And then the cycle just repeats itself. How can things be so good and so bad at the same time? And then we have to appreciate balance. What the hell does any of this have to do with gaming? Well, I think that we're at a point where things are really great in gaming. Things are amazing. We have, what's bad for big publishers and developers that they have, such an enormous cost at producing a video game. The budget's so high. You have so many people in suits sitting around board meetings making decisions on creative. And it's difficult to make these games, and they settle on sequels because they're looking at the bottom line. But that's a bad thing. Maybe if you're working at a big studio and you are creative and you want to make your dream game, the game you're passionate about making, and again, those guys in the suits are making decisions for you. But at the same time, that opens the door for indie developers. One of the good things about the internet and web and the age we're living in is we have things like Kickstarter and crowdsourcing. People are making a living and making income basically off donations from other people. It's a weird sort of socialist utopia on the web that's taking place at the same time that things can be so bad in other industries. But then some industries are just doing really well. But things are bad and they're good at the same time. I think with those video games in the gaming industry, I don't want to take any of that news too seriously right now. I haven't bought an Xbox One and I haven't bought a PlayStation 4. I still don't know what I want to get. I think that's really what those numbers, what those articles being written in places like Forbes magazine and the Wall Street Journal, I think that's what it speaks to. It speaks to the consumers are still a little bit on the fence. Everybody who ran out and bought an Xbox One, those are your early adopters. It doesn't matter what the console looked like, what games were lined up, they were going to buy that anyway. I have a good friend that I used to work with. He's one of those early adopters. He's going to buy it simply because he likes Xbox. He's just going to buy it. He's got the disposable income. He doesn't care if it's something that is a mistake 2 or 3 years down the road. Whereas other people are looking at it like, hey, that's it's $400, right? Or $500. I don't even know. See, I haven't even looked at the prices yet. It's expensive. It's expensive if you're looking at, hey, I only have so much money that I want to spend on, discretionary items throughout the year. I mean, some people are tight on their budget. Some people don't have that kind of money just to throw out and say, hey, I'm just going to buy this, and if it's crappy, whatever. You buy a phone, a laptop, computer, a new camera, any sort of electronic device that runs between, $300 and $800, those aren't items that you want to have to throw away in 2 or 3 months. You want that thing to last. So maybe that could be part of it. I know that I'm speaking for myself when I say that. I don't want to buy an Xbox One and then be disappointed. I don't want to do it because I'm going to be so freaking mad. I will be just a rage-fueled, angry troll of a person. There'll be no stopping me because I will feel ripped off. But right now, I don't know what to do. I don't know Sony PlayStation that well. I had an original PlayStation. That was years ago. I haven't played Metal Gear Solid since Metal Gear Solid for the original PlayStation. I don't know what game I would even play on the PlayStation besides Destiny. I don't know if you're like me. Don't feel alone. I don't know what system I want to buy, but the longer we wait to make that decision, it seems that it's not good news for Microsoft. If we wait 6 months to a year and a half to buy the Xbox One, we may have forced Microsoft's hand in what they're going to do with their Xbox division. Maybe some good things will happen. They could get rid of the Kinect, maybe. They could change some of those features on it, bring down the price a little bit. That would be nice. Hint, if you're listening. Gee, Microsoft, I'm sure nobody's telling you this. We would really like that thing to be a little bit cheaper. And you made it look like a big box, a big square rectangle box. I mean, come on, you couldn't design it to make it a little more sleek. Anyway, that has nothing to do with absolute anything. Yeah, so I don't know I just don't know which one I'm going to get. I don't even know if it's time to just take a step back and say, you know what, maybe console gaming is maybe we need to take a break, or I need to take a break for a little while. I mean, I like these games. It's a fun hobby, but are the games that much better? I railed against Titanfall last week after watching all these videos. The game doesn't look that much different from Call of Duty or any other game. And I know there's some finer points to say these games are different. Yes, they're different, but they're really not. Is it worth the investment? Are we just buying these things because they keep producing them? We don't really want them, but because it's there, we're buying it. I am waiting for that game that's just so amazing and unbelievable. Everybody's talking about it, and I have to have it. And it's such a different gaming experience. That's what I'm looking for. Right? Don't we look for that in other things? If you're gonna go buy a new car, don't you want some sort of feature that you didn't have before? Or are you the type of person that just buys the exact same car you had, last time? You don't want any sort of upgrade. You're like, I like Honda's Accords, and I will have a Honda Accord until the end of time. I don't want it to be different. Or are you looking at like, you know what? I've driven this sedan for a while, and now I want something different. Or at least you appreciate the new features they put into cars. I mean, gee, if I can get a car that drives itself, that's what I want. Which that should be, I don't know what, like 5-10 years down the road. That will be amazing. That would be an amazing thing for everybody, I think. The self-driving car. Google has that car, and it's driven, I don't know, thousands and thousands of miles by itself on U.S. roadways with, like, human drivers around it. I mean, they've already conducted their road tests just, like, out there on the streets, which would really be an awkward scene because these cars didn't have any accidents. That's what they reported back, which is good because if there was an accident, that would be a nightmare, wouldn't it? I mean, one, there's no driver. So immediately you're thinking, did the person flee the scene? Did the driver get out and leave? It's got Google written all over it. That would be bad. Bad, bad, bad. But just think about the possibilities if we have a car that drives itself. You can drink in your car now. Drinking and driving wouldn't be bad. You could actually play those video games. Remember back, I don't know, it was like 10, 12, 15 years ago. I mean, not 15, but maybe 10 years ago. There were shows on MTV where people were pimping out their little, 4-cylinder, 4-door or 2-door little coupes. And people were putting video game systems in the trunk and in the back seats. How can you play a video game while your passengers are playing Call of Duty while you're driving down the road? That's not fun. What would be fun is if the car is driving itself. It's just a sedan, but it's seated like a limousine. Everybody's facing each other. That would be awesome. That would be great. It's like your own little private subway car, basically, just going down the highway. And yes, I pointed out the best feature would be you would be able to drink in your car. That would be the best part. Oh, it always gets back to drinking. Okay. So things are bad and good at the same time, just like that party you go to. I mean, it's like getting older there's a lot of positives to getting older, but it's also bad at the same time. I was mentioning like health and not being as fit as you were when you were younger. You lose your hair a little bit. You're not your youthful self, but you're wiser. You have wisdom that you just couldn't gain unless you've just lived on this earth for that long. That's a good thing. But there are bad things as well. Like I said, you actually have to start going to the doctor when you get older. I myself don't go unless I'm passed out and someone has I'm not breathing anymore. Then I go to the hospital. But other than that, I do not like hospitals or doctors. Maybe I'll get into that on another podcast. But yes, things are good and bad at the same time. Usually I only talk about YouTube on Tuesdays, but here at the very end of this podcast, I'll go ahead and mention YouTube, how it's good and bad. So there was an article in USA Today this weekend about Twitch TV and MLG TV, and how this provides a new viewing experience for people interested in gaming, that you can go and watch other people play video games competitively, or just walkthroughs, or people just having fun. If you like video games, the idea that you would watch someone else play another video game isn't a crazy idea. I know I've gotten messages from some people or comments whenever I mention a podcast or a YouTube channel, whether it's mine or somebody else's, and they say, "Oh, I don't want to watch somebody else play a video game. I'd rather just do it myself." It's like, really? Because it's not that crazy of a concept. People like to play golf, and yet people also like to watch other people play golf. Bowling is on TV. I mean, there's a lot of events. There's a new show on AMC about arm wrestling. You're watching other people arm wrestle, and they made a reality TV show about it? I mean, get over yourself. Yes, you're going to enjoy watching other people play video games. And, oh, by the way, back in those old days of arcade rooms and arcades in the mall, the stand-up cabinet video game, people would huddle around those things and watch other people play. The guy's going for a new high score. He hasn't died yet. People would watch. So don't give me this, I don't like to watch other people play video games. Yes, you do. And because there's a lot of people watching Twitch. I think it was like 2 million viewers last month, or no, I can't remember the details. A lot of people, but I guess their statistics were that people on average watch Twitch.tv for 2 hours at a time. And what that means for advertisers is, yes, those eyeballs are looking at the screen for 2 hours plus. It's a money-making opportunity. That's good, right? It's a video game-related industry. And the best part is the content comes from us, from average people. You just can upload your stuff to Twitch and you can be gaming. Now, this also plays back to the whole Xbox One versus PlayStation 4 issue, because PlayStation 4 does allow you to stream to Twitch without having any other hardware. It's just built into the system, and you can just start streaming your gameplay. Microsoft said they would have a similar function, but it hasn't been included yet. Yeah, so maybe they made a mistake there. Either way, the whole viewing experience idea is great. But now think about this. It's good because it pays for itself, or it's profitable. They can monetize streaming gameplay because they're going to put ads on it, right? And any YouTuber knows that's how money is made for your YouTube. It's the same with television or radio or any other form of advertisement of entertainment. You need advertisers. They need to sell you stuff. They need to sell you consumables. They need to sell you products maybe related to what you're watching. So a big push for Sony to put the Twitch streaming ability into their next console was that they then could advertise more of their games and peripherals. While you're streaming your gameplay to somebody else might be watching it. Either way, they get to advertise more Sony products. Amazon does this with the Kindle, with the tablet. If you're ever wondering, why does Amazon have its own piece of hardware that it makes barely any money off of, by the way? The manufacturing cost, the MSRP is just above the manufacturing cost. So they're not in it to sell tablets to make money. They're in it so they can put advertisements on the Kindle linking back to Amazon so you can buy more stuff. And that's how YouTube works, right? You're on YouTube, the big YouTuber that was featured in New York Times, Olga K, and that guy Boogie even talked about her recently. The big YouTubers have, millions of subscribers, millions of views. They can make up to 100, 150K a year. It's all about advertising. They have people watching them, and then advertisers want to advertise to them, sell products like, I don't know, chewing gum and soda and consumable stuff that maybe they think you're going to buy. If you got a damn YouTube on makeup, advertisers can advertise other makeup to you. And that's what I meant earlier about how things can be so good and so bad at the same time. We have these opportunities to make money and do things differently now. We don't have to go work in a factory. You don't have to do manual labor necessarily, but it's not like those jobs are bad or anything. We need people to perform some of those functions for now, at least, until the robots take over. But it just seems that why isn't it catching on for everybody? Why isn't it available to everybody? Why can't we all just sit around, play video games, and make money? I mean, it seems like the answer is just in the question somewhere, that we should all be making stuff because someone else is going to use it or see it. If we're playing video games, we should all be video game makers. Or if you're watching YouTube, everybody should be a YouTube content creator. If you're listening to podcasts, everybody should be a podcast creator. And we should consume each other's stuff. If I'm making a YouTube video, I should be watching other people's YouTube videos and subscribing and commenting. If I'm making a podcast, I should be listening to other people's podcasts and subscribing and commenting. Help them out so they can make money. Because I don't want them to go away. You know, if we don't buy this Xbox One, it's going to go away or it will change. And that's what I mean. How can things be so bad and so good at the same time? So good and bad at the exact same time. It could just be the balance of the universe. Maybe I'm just trying to wrap my head around this whole big old idea that no, Gunner, you can't stay at your buddy's house till 4 o'clock in the morning, drink all of his scotch, right? Listen to every single, bit of music he has on his, playlist. No, this was just a party. It was a social function. Now that everybody's gone, it's not really a social function anymore. It's just you being an asshole. How can something be so good also be so bad? All right. Thanks again for listening. Leave a comment, subscribe, share, tweet. Don't be afraid to have this discussion, or at least ask yourself the question, how can things be so good and so bad at the same time? All right. Later on this week, I'm going to be talking about where I get all my ideas. It involves me in the shower. So yeah, thanks for putting me inside of you every single day through your earbuds, through your audible orifices. All right. Thanks again. I'm Gunner. And this was the Gamers on Tap podcast.